Good afternoon, students. Today we will be learning about how to draft a job application. As you know, most of us are well educated and we would like to complete our education to increase our chances of getting employment, perhaps at the same time joining at a very good level. And whatever these things are, before we get to that position, the introduction and the key to opening those doors for us is the job application. How you draft your job application speaks a lot about you, and the interviewer or the person who is going to hire you or a prospective employer would obviously make a fair judgment about you by looking at your job application. आप personally बाद में जाएंगे जॉब इंटरव्यू के लिए, लेकिन उससे पहले जो आपकी एप्लीकेशन जाएगी वो आपको इंट्रोड्यूस कर देती है, and that is what creates interest and perhaps makes you better than the other candidates, because usually there is not just one person who's applying for the job, there are several people who are applicants. So who is the best one? A lot of it goes into seeing what is mentioned in your resume, what is mentioned in your biodata, and on the basis of that only a candidate is accepted or not accepted also. So let us see what goes into making a job application. जब job application आप लिखेंगे, so it's a 6-mark question in the exam, and this question has 2 parts. First part is the cover letter. What does it include in the cover letter? Let us see now. The formal letter that you will write, and the second part of it includes the biodata, that is your resume and your curriculum vitae. Now let us see this again. When you do this question, I have mentioned here that it's a 6-mark question. You should not spend more than 5 to 8 minutes solving this question. Again, the marking scheme is here. Format is of 1 mark, the content is 2.5 marks, and the language and expression will fetch you 2 marks, 2.5 marks if you are correct. Now, this is a longer question as compared to the questions that you get based on letters, where you are writing to an editor, or you are writing to complain or to make an inquiry or perhaps place an order. All those things just include 1 letter, but this includes 2 parts. And if you just write the cover letter and you do not write the biodata, then obviously it is not going to get you the marks that you would want to have. So make sure that when you attempt this question, you are able to understand that you will have enough time to write, but at the same time your writing speed should be good. You should be able to finish in time. So make sure all that is done within the time frame. Alright, now what goes into making this particular job application? Why do we write a job application? It's very important to use the proper layout. And when we are writing the proper layout of a job application, it becomes important that we use neat and clean handwriting. And at the same time, when you write this cover letter here, this speaks a lot about yourself. You should not be boasting about yourself. As they say, अपनी बढ़ाई नहीं करनी चाहिए, पर in a very subtle way, you should highlight your qualities and your qualifications which make you the most suitable candidate for the post that is offered. आप न्यूज़पेपर्स वगैरह में देखते हैं जॉब सिचुएशंस के लिए जब एडवर्टाइजमेंट आते हुए आपसे बोला जाता है कि आप ये कवर लेटर ड्राफ्ट करें. That means this will explain why you should be taken and not anybody else. And obviously there is healthy competition in all employment situations. So here also the same thing will count. So you have to first of all state the reason for the letter. You have to state why you are writing, and then you have to indicate why you are interested in the position. You know about the company and what you can do for the employer. Now, if you are a recent graduate, that means you don't have work experience. Then work experience will also, you have to show that how your academic background will be an asset to the employment. Then if you have practical work experience, you have to point out that again in the cover letter. When we do guided practice, We will go through that also, but right now I'm just explaining this for the moment. Now you should not be repeating yourself again and again in a letter. Make it very brief and very polite, very formal, and at the same time stick to the main points that you are supposed to do. Also, at the end of it, you should request a personal interview indicating flexibility in time and place. You can always end the letter by thanking the employer to consider your application and things like that. So, after this cover letter is completed, we come to the biodata. This biodata is very important, and here below I am listing the format for this particular biodata. So you start by giving your name, then father's name, date of birth. That is, this is all personal details till here. Till this point you have to give your personal details, and this heading should be very clearly marked. It should be neatly written. It should not be hodgepodge. So make sure that you leave a single line spacing, as I have shown here. Leave a single line spacing between each category. Okay. Then you come to your education. Now you have to mention everything about your education, which means you have to list your academic qualification, grades, when and where you achieved them, what is your so far your subjects that you have followed, which year you have passed, all this information. You can put it in a tabular form as I've listed here. So I started by writing out the board or university. So if you're in school, obviously you will mention the board. If you're in a university, which university, then which year you have done this, what subjects have you got, what are your grade or percentages in this particular course. You may have topped in a in a particular subject, then you can mention that also. Okay, so this is how the initial part of the application will be done. Now let us come to the professional qualification. So what are your professional qualifications also will be listed in a tabular form itself. And professional qualification and work experience. So once you have written your professional qualifications in the format mentioned before, you will write about your work experience. Work experience is very important if you have some. You may have undergone a summer training program also, which may not involve academic learning, but at the same time, it can be counted as a professional experience where you have had exposure to some kind of professional environment. Even if you're studying, you can still have had some sort of professional experience which will help you adjust better to a formal work environment. So here you mention the name of the organization, where you were, then you write the post that you had, what post you held over here, then how long did you have this, and what was the salary drawn. It's very important that we give these details. Then after the salary, you have reasons for leaving. All that information comes into this. Apart from that, if you have any other knowledge, if you would like to share that, for example, languages known, what are your personal hobbies? Personal hobbies are things that portray you in a good light and offer some value on how well you will perform. And perhaps if you show that you are involved in team sports, in some sort of charitable work, or maybe if you are involved in some sort of selfless activity which is related to society, contributing to society in some positive way, then it is good. Now, when you make this thing, when you make your curriculum vitae, when you are drafting it, make sure that you do not do any decoration or drawings on it. You may use bullets and things like that, because we know all these things are typed by computers, but do not use extravagant fonts and decorations and other kind of thing. Make it very simple and clutter-free. Your CV should highlight your achievements, but it should not be a very complicated piece to look at, because see, a prospective employer is going to look at hundreds of CVs, and yours is also one of them. So the more simple it is in format and reading and things like that, the easier it will be. At the same time, if you're talking about getting expected salary, then this is a way of negotiation. You have to understand salary is not fixed. Discuss the salary terms once you are present there for the interview, if they call you for the interview. So that's also there, a condition. So make that and do not mention your salary expected unless you are specifically asked to, which is not the case with most of the employers. So make sure these things are there. You may have seen certain websites also, such as shine.com, and you have other naukri.com and things like that, where they ask you to upload your CV. They even have these various forms on the internet which they make you fill out, which are also in a particular format. So you can take a cue from that and browse through those websites. You'll be able to understand how people have written their CVs. Some of them are very nice, very properly worded, and their qualifications and work experience are highlighted, because we do know that hiring takes place on the basis of your work experience and your qualifications. So tomorrow, maybe after a couple of years, you will also be applying for jobs. So it's a good thing to learn this, and it makes you easier to finish your qualification also. All right, now we will look at some common phrases which are used when we are writing a job application. In the cover letter, when you are writing a cover letter, then you can see some useful languages. If you have seen an advertisement in the paper and you are responding to it, so in the first paragraph itself, you can write that in response to your letter, to your advertisement in so-and-so, it could be Hindustan Times or the Times of India or any particular newspaper, even, it could be an internet application or whatever. Then you say, I wish to offer my candidature for your consideration. That means you are making an application for a job, and then you would like to apply, maybe if not this, then the second option is to use this one, not all, any one of these, for the post of. Now, whatever job is there, it should be there in your organization, advertised today in name of newspaper of whatever. So, all that is mentioned. Then again, you have the third option of drafting your reply. That is, this is the reference to your advertisement in for the post of. Now, again, that you will fill in depending on the verbal input. Now, when I come to the verbal input, that means the exam question that you will receive. Lot of details will be provided and you have to invent the rest of the details. हो सकता है आपको एड्रेस दे रखा है उसमें, हो सकता है आपको उसमें उन्होंने कंपनी का नाम भी दे रखा है, किस जॉब के लिए अप्लाई करना है वो भी दे रखा है. Now make sure that when the particular job is mentioned, for example, if you are applying for the post of a receptionist, then you have to mention that you have secretarial skills, or you have to mention that you know how to work different kind of telephonic switchboards for transfer calls, or you have a certain amount of computer technology knowledge. All that is. But if you are a scientist and if you go and apply for the post of a receptionist again or a telephone operator, then clearly there is a mismatch. So that mismatch should not take place. Okay? Now we will quickly look at a particular question which has been attempted here. This is an application for the post of receptionist, and this candidate has written a cover letter, which is a very brief cover letter. This is with reference to the advertisement published in the Hindu on 28th April 2018 for the post of receptionist. I would like to put forth my application for this thing. So, CMO well versed in shorthand and MS Office. So, material knowledge is there. And I would request you to consider my application for the post. Looking forward to a positive reply. Thanking you, yours truly, etc., etc. And then at the end, she's written enclosure resume. Resume is the biodata. So here, this candidate has written her biodata and academic qualifications, and everything properly has been written here. So she has made it very brief. She has written this, how you are supposed to be drafting your job application answer in the exam. I will be posting this in the various groups also. So look at it and understand it and see how scoring this question can be if attempted in the right manner. And see very simply, this particular candidate has mentioned his or her qualification. So thank you. This is the end of this particular class, and I will be posting this video along with the affiliate links and the content to be written. Thank you, students.